Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with Senator Toomey to discuss our bipartisan amendment to the Farm Bill. It would put a cap on insurance subsidies to large farms, farms that are often owned by corporations and that don't need the help. Is a common sense way to save taxpayers billions of dollars and help reduce the country's deficit. Our proposal would cap crop insurance subsidies at $40,000. It would reduce the deficit by about $5.2 billion over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. And as we've seen, the Farm Bill already contains many great reforms to out-of-date programs, and I congratulate all of those who have been working so hard on this legislation. I'm glad that we are finally ending direct payments, but we need to include the same fiscally responsible protections in the crop insurance program. The costs for this program have skyrocketed from $2 billion in 2001 to $9 billion in 2011. And over the next 10 years, CBO estimates that the program will cost the taxpayers more than $90 billion. At the same time, we've seen farmers putting less and less skin in the game. Taxpayers are shouldering more of the burden. In 2000, taxpayers were averaging about 37% of the farmer's crop insurance premium. Last year, it was more than 60%, so almost double. Through the crop insurance program, we're sending billions of dollars to farms that I think it's questionable whether they really need taxpayer help. Only the largest 4% of farms would be affected by our proposal, and yet our amendment would save billions. So I want to put these numbers into a little perspective. In 2011, 26 farm businesses received more than $1 million to reduce the cost of their crop insurance premium. According to the GAO report, the largest single recipient of a premium support was a corporation that received $2.2 million. That's more than 6 times the amount provided to all of the farms in the state of New Hampshire. I believe we do need a farm safety net. I think there's no question about that. But not all farms need that level of support from the taxpayers. I'm pleased that our amendment has the support of a diverse group of organizations that include the Environmental Working Group and Taxpayers for Common Sense, and both are represented here today. We're pleased that Scott Faber from the Environmental Working Group is here, and Ryan Alexander from Taxpayers for Common Sense. Thank you both very much for joining us. So I think it's time for us, as part of this provision, to get serious about reducing the deficit, about protecting taxpayer money. Let's cap crop insurance so that we don't subsidize farms that don't need the help at the expense of this country's well-being. And I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Senator Toomey, who is the co-sponsor of this legislation. Senator Toomey.
Thank you very much, Senator Shaheen. It's been great working with you on this, as well as on the sugar amendments that we've been working so hard on. I also want to thank the other folks who are here, Scott Faber from the Environmental Working Group, and Ryan Alexander as well. Thank you very much for your support. This is a bipartisan effort to bring just some common sense reforms. You know, if we think about the magnitude of spending that's going on around here, it should be deeply disturbing. In 2008, the Farm Bill was scored by the CBO to spend over 10 years just over $600 billion. This one's going to spend very nearly $1 trillion, well over $900 billion. It's a 60% increase in spending. It's happening at a time when we are in our 4th consecutive year of running over $1 trillion deficit, when we have allowed the accumulated debt of our government to exceed unprecedented peacetime levels. Only during World War II itself did we exceed these kinds of levels, and then clearly only for a short and very specific purpose. So we've got to take some measures to bring this spending under control, and I can't think of a better place. If you'll forgive the metaphor, this ought to be low-hanging fruit. The fact is, government pays a percentage of the crop insurance premium for virtually all programs, but unlike all of the other programs, this has no limit, no cap, none whatsoever. how can it make sense to have an open-ended, unlimited entitlement to have taxpayers foot the bill for such a great portion of a crop insurance premium? As Senator Shaheen pointed out, there's a handful of farms where the cost is truly staggering. It's completely indefensible. We just believe that no such subsidy should be open-ended. And our approach, I think, is very reasonable. It establishes a limit that's comparable to that of other subsidy programs. The $40,000 per policy limit makes a lot of sense, and the $5.2 billion it'll save the taxpayers is real money, even in Washington. So I am urging my colleagues and Senator Reid to ensure that this amendment is permissible. Frankly, a $1 trillion bill of this breadth and complexity ought to have a wide open amendment process. I am very frustrated that we're not close to such a process yet, but I am still hopeful that this and other important amendments will be permitted on the Senate floor, and I would urge my colleagues to support it. With that, I will invite Scott Faber to come to the podium and make his comments.
Good morning. Again, my name is Scott Faber with the Environmental Working Group. We applaud Senator Shaheen and for offering this common sense amendment to cap crop insurance subsidies. This amendment is not only the most important bipartisan amendment to the Farm Bill to reduce the deficit, it is also the most important bipartisan amendment to the Farm Bill to help family farmers and the environment. Because crop insurance subsidies are unlimited, because there are no limits on who can receive these subsidies or how much they can receive, crop insurance subsidies have created an unfair playing field for our family farmers. Because the largest 20% of farmers receive on average about $50,000 a year, and because the bottom 80% receive on average about $5,000 a year, our crop insurance subsidies undermine the true purpose of our farm safety net, which is to help those farmers who truly need help. What's more, our crop insurance subsidies are making it possible, even desirable, to plow up marginal lands like wetlands and grasslands that would not be farmed if farmers were simply responding to market forces. Because farmers are guaranteed a return on every acre they plant, more and more farmers are relying on crop insurance subsidies to farm the treasury and not their fields. And it's not just taxpayers who are paying the price. The combination of unlimited crop insurance subsidies and high commodity prices has contributed to the loss of millions of acres of wetlands and grasslands in recent years, threatening jobs that depend upon fish and wildlife, and increasing the drinking water treatment costs of our rural communities. This amendment and other common sense crop insurance reforms will simply apply the same limits we have always applied to other subsidy programs. And now that crop insurance programs are the primary way we subsidize farmers at a cost of $90 billion over the next 10 years, it is time for the Senate to ensure that these subsidies are helping, not hurting, family farmers and the environment. And I'll turn it over to Ryan Alexander.
Thank you, Scott. As Scott said, I'm Ryan Alexander. I'm president of Taxpayers for Common Sense. We're a national, nonpartisan budget watchdog. I want to thank Senators Shaheen and Toomey for their leadership on this issue. We strongly support their amendment to begin to rein in the out-of-control crop insurance program. Unlike most of America, farm country has experienced record-breaking profits during the economic downturn. With the country facing a $1.3 trillion deficit and $15 trillion debt, we cannot afford to be subsidizing guaranteed revenue for well-off farmers. The simple fact is that, on average, 62% of crop insurance premium payments are subsidized by the taxpayer. So for every 38 cents producers pay, Uncle Sam chips in 62 cents. These premiums are used to guarantee as much as 75 to even 85% of revenue. And if there is a loss, not necessarily a crop loss, the federal government pays again. We probably can't undo this absurd scheme all at once, but we can improve the existing program to make it more fiscally responsible and ensure that it doesn't actually get worse, as it would if the shallow loss proposals in the Senate Farm Bill are adopted. The amendment Senators Shaheen and Toomey are proposing would do just that. It would stop the premium subsidy check at $40,000. This limit would not affect the vast majority of farmers. The subsidy limit would bring the program in line with other existing commodity supports, which do not have open-ended commitments to the taxpayers. And if you want to buy more coverage, you can. Just don't expect the taxpayers to further subsidize your choice. The crop insurance subsidy program has turned risk management on its ear. Instead of helping farmers mitigate risk, in some cases these subsidies are promoting it. It's now too lucrative not to try to grow crops unlikely to produce in the region or on farmlands that are highly erodible or subject to flooding. But hey, if you're gambling with house money, there's not much to lose. The Shaheen-Toomey amendment is a common sense step towards making federally subsidized crop insurance more fiscally responsible. And that's why we at Taxpayers for Common Sense wholeheartedly give it our support. Thank you.